Good morning. I'm Father Andrew Carl Wisdom, Vicar for Mission Advancement here in the province of St. Albert the Great. This is another installment of Know As You Go. And what we try to do in these segments is let you know before you go on Sunday some of the richness of the readings that you'll receive, some of the symbols, some of the images that will be coming your way so that you can more fully appreciate them as you're sitting there in the pews on Sunday, drinking in that homily and feasting on the Word of the Lord. During Lent, we especially want to be conscious of how the Lord is speaking to us very specifically during this time where we pause in a penitential way and look at our lives. And in particular, as we approach this third week of Lent, we want to stop and say, how is my Lent going? You know, what did I give up and how was that going? I gave it up. Am I continuing to give it up? Have I been faithful to that? And then not simply giving something up for the sake of giving it up, but why did I give it up? To be triggered to give more. To give more how? In Lent, always through prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Prayer, taking more time with the Lord before we rush out into our day, before our head hits the pillow at night. Fasting in terms of recognizing our appetites a little bit and saying, I'm not sure I do need that. And maybe when I grab for that chip or that cookie, what I really want to do is calm down and take a little bit more time with the Lord instead of just kind of feed myself instinctually with something that's not really going to fill me up spiritually. And then almsgiving. That's kind of a word we don't use all the time, but it's about reaching out to the poor among us, not just materially, but emotionally, spiritually, whether at home, at the gym, at school, in the grocery line, or the gas line. So we only give things up in Lent in order to give something more, to be triggered into a greater generous disposition. The readings this weekend, of course, we're allowed two options. I chose the second option, readings from Year A. They remind us of what that more is. We have the familiar parable of our Lord with the Samaritan woman. And what is the first thing he does? He shows up and he asks her for a drink of water. It can seem a little demanding at first. Maybe not even polite, except that she's completely taken aback because he has spoken to her as a Jew speaking to a Samaritan. That was unheard of. As with any group today where you would see two groups of people that normally don't get along and would consider each other of a different class, for him to speak to her was saying, I see you and I respect you. It was actually a compliment. And then she assures him that she would be happy to do that, but why would he ask her? She still can't quite get it. And he says, if you knew the water I wanted to give you, it would set you up basically for life. It would satiate all your thirst. And that's what we're about in Lent, is looking at how we currently satiate our thirst. Is it in those things that really fill us deeply? Or is it in momentary rushes and pleasures that take us away from the deeper joy and peace of life? The story goes on where the Samaritan woman runs back to her village after a conversation with the Lord and says, come meet a guy who's told me everything there is to know about me. Even some things I'm not really proud of. And yet there is an acceptance and a love, even though there's a challenge as he talks with her. But always from the standpoint of these things you've been feeding yourself on are not the things that will fill you in the long run. That's what we're getting to at Lent. You know, the psalmist says also in this weekend, harden not your hearts if you hear the word of the Lord. And oftentimes we do harden our hearts because we don't want to hear a new way. We don't want to change. And yet if we look deep down, we know that we're not always filled up, that there's an emptiness. So we have to have the courage. We have to have the courage of the Israelites in that first reading, who, when challenged on their grumbling, realized that they had lost their sense of gratitude for all that the Lord had done for them. So my friends, let us take the riches we're given with these readings this weekend and be reminded through those readings of what Lent is all about. Preparing ourselves now for the interior grace of resurrection the Lord will give us this Easter. If He's going to heal us with His grace this Easter, then what is Lent preparing for? What is Lent all about? It's about all that needs to be healed. So let us prepare ourselves because we want what He has to give us. Let us open ourselves this weekend to the very words He wants to feed us with. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to having you next time on Know As You Go.